My granny always tell me in Jamaica, when fish go a river bottom and tell you say shark de, believe. I wonder, why is it that the United States always warning Jamaica to be wary of those bearing gifts? What is the agenda of China? Why are they giving such cheap loans to Jamaica? What is Jamaica to China? What does Jamaica offers to China while China is doing so many investments in ports, in railroad, in mining, in housing, in water? So many areas the Chinese have great interest in developing. But I'm going to say to you, imperialism can be good, but it equally can be negative to one state. But I've never seen an imperialist who has come here and benefited Jamaica. Think of it. From the great times of the Spanish, to the British, to the US, now to Chinatown, being in Holland. The next thing is that you're going to hear it is mandatory for us to learn Mandarin. You're going to be told that Chinese this and Chinese that and Chinese. Too much of that! It's now time for us to develop our nation state, that it advances the human race, and Jamaica can be better for Jamaicans. No more. No more. Have you seen how they deal with the workers in the wholesales? Have you seen how they treat Jamaicans? Imagine having that kind of feature being a part of the new Jamaica, where China take over. Today on Unfiltered, Roger is here and he's going to join me. And we're going to have this fulsome discussion on what is the agenda of China. Stay tuned. The question most Jamaicans and those even in the diaspora are asking, what is the agenda of China? What's their agenda, Roger?
Andre, I don't think China has any different agenda from the British, from the United States, or from Europe.
So you're saying their agenda is to exploit?
I think their agenda is to expand their influence.
Their influence as a means of exploiting
and expanding their
people.
influence to other countries that need the resources that these other empires or imperialist nations offer.
So, is it a case that China, in past history, wasn't able to meet the demands of Britain and other territories, and they're now coming back with a new and different agenda, coming with a disguise in the form of a dragon, the Chinese dragon? Is the Chinese dragon here to invade the
I
spaces,
think when you look at
or is the Chinese dragon here to be of aid to countries?
I think when you look at all options on the table, whether we're going to be looking at the EU, whether we're going to be looking at the US, or other loaning agencies, in my mind, I think China in the moment is offering us the best alternative. That, as far as I'm concerned, is a good thing for Jamaica. It's a good thing for the region. I think we just need to stop trying to vilify China
for
doing something that other countries or other loaning agencies are unwilling to do.
But my question therefore is, you say they come and they're assisting, but the environment is of no importance to them.
The environment is of very little importance to mankind in general. If we should look at the environment from we begin to recall civilization till now, we would have been able to see the kind of damage man has done to the environment.
But then you must
We've
look at
always been parasitic to the environment. It has never been a priority in truth. Why do we think China needs to have a priority that we've never shown?
So my question is, have you looked at the situations in our country, how the Chinese have taken over, invaded, and disregard and disrespect people?
Oh, come on, Andre.
Do you see the kind of treatment Chinese get in this country
Andre,
over poor people?
I think it's unfortunate the way we talk about imperialism.
So you're saying that you're all for China and not for Jamaica?
I will not answer definitively that point.
No, I want you to answer that.
I would like to bring you.
The people, the nation needs you to answer that question. So you are for China and not for the people of Jamaica?
I don't think it's an issue of China versus the people. I think it's an issue of China for the people. That's why the government recognizes it and is doing all they can to work with China.
So, for the people when? The Chinese man on the job is getting $1,000 and the Jamaican is getting 200. That is for the people.
The kind of infrastructural work that we
That is for the people. When China is paying no taxes within our country. That is for the people.
The kind of
that is for the people.
work.
When Chinese man box down woman and man and disregard them. That is for the people, Roger. You tell me that's for the people.
The Chinese has granted us the opportunity to get infrastructure into our country, whether it is arterial roadways or it is building and technology, all of those things that Jamaica needs but can't afford. We've been able to access these through Chinese loans and through Chinese partnerships, etc., etc. These are the things we ourselves can't do without. These are the things we complain about that we're not getting enough of. But I also would like to take us to another issue. This idea that imperialism is such a bad thing and they're coming in to take over, right?
I'm going to fix
because
the
as far as I'm concerned, brand Jamaica is as a result of imperialism. Because one, it was the British and the Spaniards who came in. They brought in Africans. They are the ones who formulated our history where we have it, because Africans did not belong in the Caribbean. British did not belong in the Caribbean.
What is this nonsense?
Did not belong in the Caribbean. It is their own movements into the region. It's their expansionism that has brought Jamaica to be what it is today. We have British culture, Spanish culture, African culture. How then can we divorce ourselves from imperialism? We are creatures of imperialism.
No. You're losing your senses. Roger Bend. Yes, we're a creature of imperialism, but the truth be told, what has Jamaica gained from being a creature of imperialism? Dependency culture. We are totally dependent on our slave masters, post-colonial masters. That every time we talk, we are talking about we need reparations, we need this, we need that. But the point be
So the
told,
fact that we are dependent may be our fault.
on whose
Interdependence is an international language.
And these imperialist states have all benefited from our forefathers and from Jamaicans working their asses off to make them. Look at Britain. Look where Britain is today. They have all exploited us. Look at the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Has Jamaica and the Caribbean benefited from that? We have never benefited from that.
I would disagree with that. I think the Caribbean Basin Initiative has done a whole lot for Jamaica.
To what? To whose extent?
Have you seen the type of supermarkets we have and the type of value-added goods we can purchase? We couldn't have given those kind of yields and quality goods that we're seeing in supermarkets now.
But look at our hospitals.
And the prices of these goods.
Look at the hospitals. Look at our education system.
Thanks to all of those kind of initiatives, because one, the kind of equipment we're able to have in hospitals and the kind of surgeries we can do on technology is one, because of the kind of educational fluidity that these huge countries with their imperialist mentality have allowed our doctors to have gone, to have learned, and have given us funding to get the equipment so we can do surgery. God bless these imperialist countries. God bless countries like China.
So you say God bless America, God bless Britain, and God bless China. But I want to tell you once more, be wary of those bearing gifts. Because those gifts, presently Jamaica owes China 1.3 billion US dollars in loans. And if we can't pay that back in the next 30 years, what do you think China is going to be doing? Giving us extensions? The lands will be called for China and the Chinese investors. Nothing for Jamaica. So when you come talking about we must be glad for all of the, we damn right must get it. Because them exploit we for years. Didn't they exploit your forefathers and my forefathers? They exploited us. So if them give us hospitals and give us supermarkets, damn right we must get it.
Exploitation is the nature of international best practice.
So you have no problem being exploited?
I have no problem being exploited because we ourselves exploit markets and exploit people. And I don't know why you have to give that kind of nomenclature to a benevolent government and country, right? But as it relates to the whole issue of hypocrisy, because I realize that your friends online seem to be able to identify hypocrites quite well. And the hypocrites that we want to talk to are some of those people who are themselves running away from Jamaica to live in these imperialist countries. But imperialism is such a bad thing.
I want to Chucky. Jesus. You know why so many of them have to run off? Because the imperialists come here and get better treatment than the nationals. and the nationals have to live on minimum wage as low as 9,000 per week. But they have to go into other states trying to make better, to come home back.
Possibly
and
they
to
should have
build.
stayed home in this country, use their shoulders to the metal and make Jamaica great again. Many of them are making America great again, making Britain great again.
China, Roger, just imagine if the new Silk Road is built. Just imagine if the new Silk Road is achieved.
I would think if the new Silk Road is achieved, Jamaica would stand to benefit based on its own alliance with China and based on the fact that this kind of global networking
So why China want
is going to open markets that Jamaica would need.
Why China
to
needs
compete.
Goat Island?
I don't know.
So you say competitive markets. Goat Island positions itself as a global logistics hub that China has been eyeing for some time now. And it's because of the assistance of the US, why they are not here as yet. But you know what I want
has
to
failed, Andre, to achieve its own logistics imperative. If China can do that for Jamaica, then maybe we should allow China.
But they own the wharf now. And if they own the railway and the wharf, you know what that means. They're going to start owning the banks, owning other areas of governance. That is, you know, let me tell you something. China owning wharf is not a good sign.
That kind of development is going to bring very valuable employment to tons of unemployed people. That's one.
But this is not.
It's also going to raise the profile of Jamaica.
But it's not raising the profile of Jamaica for Jamaicans, Roger. It's not improving the livelihood of Jamaicans. Because if you look in these areas, there are more Chinese executives than ordinary Jamaicans who are given the chance to become executives.
But they don't have the experience that Chinese.
So why not train them?
International
why not
actors will have.
Why
they
not
don't
train
have that experience.
them?
Allow them to learn. But first, the Chinese must infiltrate the system, get the system up and running, and teach us the system. It's how China learned. Not just China, but Asia itself learned from the imperialist United States of America. They were able and smart enough to learn. Will Jamaica be able and smart enough to learn?
So you're saying that China now has outsmarted the United States.
Of course.
And because of such, it's China's time to reap on the market, see.
It's how the world works.
So 10, 15, 20 years from now, when you look, the government is Jamaican nationals, but the majority of investors in this country is China. We can't pay back the loans and China start taking away our national heritage. What are we going to do?
Learn Mandarin.
So you're saying
they are the same ones who will kill the government if the government don't deliver on funds and deliver on promises and fix infrastructure. We decided to do that. So the Chinese are willing to give us the money. So if we can't pay them back, we have to give them our resources. We have to give them our ports. We have to find ways of sustaining the loan.
So I wonder if this is why the Prime Minister is defending the developments to happen within Maroon Town of their company.
If the Prime Minister is supporting China, I would say he's a very smart man.
Smart.
He's not the first one to support it. Portia Simpson Miller herself championed it at some point in a campaign speech and went on to win elections and then form an alliance with the Chinese. The Jamaica Labour Party came into power and they also form in line with the Chinese. But hold on, that's not just Jamaica. We've seen that in several countries in a whole continent called Africa. It's not new, it's international best practice these days to form an alliance with China.
So forming that alliance with China is not to the detriment of the world.
It's for each country to use that funds that they're going to get from China to better themselves. It's not the focus is on China. The focus is on countries' ability to manage their own fiscal responsibilities.
And my argument is simply this, Roger. The very moment countries are not able to finance themselves and to pay over their loans is the very moment that this Chinese dragon will invade and take over the national assets of these countries. Imagine not being able to pay for the loans. And then the Chinese dragon just creep upon you and take your assets. When they take over these assets, it's no longer belonging to Jamaica, no longer belonging to the Caribbean, no longer belonging to nation states. And if it no longer belongs to nation states, they can come in, invade, take over.
Unfair. We can repurchase these resources.
Under what? Under what principles? Under what conventions?
It's unfair.
Under what conventions you can repurchase? How can you buy back from the Chinese when the Chinese know what the assets are, what are the returns on the investments? On what basis you can buy it back when you're heavily indebted to China? Mr. Chinese spokesperson on foreign affairs, respond. Chinatown ambassador, tell us.
Andre, I don't think you need to demonize me at this
No,
time.
I'm not going to demonize you. Me leave you to Unfiltered TV.
I'm going to say this. The kind of business that China will bring in, it's going to also increase wealth in phenomenal ways in the country. So this idea that you're talking about, that we will not be able to repurchase properties or repurchase lands or assets, it's not true. Because the locals themselves will also be empowered, will also earn, will also amass wealth.
The locals will amass wealth. Have you seen the model of wholesales downtown? How the Chinese wholesalers treat the Jamaican wholesalers? Have you realized that the Chinese men don't try to give wealth or empower black nationals to get wealth? So how are we going to amass wealth, Mr. Spokesperson? Tell us, how are we going to amass wealth when they're all for themselves and there are a few blacks?
But Andre, we all know already in Jamaica that the merchant class in this country are not blacks.
Who says so?
The merchant class in this country are not blacks. They were never blacks. Our own Jamaican people don't trust black merchants in this country. They trust Chinese, they trust Indians, and they trust Jordanians or whomever else.
You know why?
They will never trust a black man in business. We ourselves are the problem.
I fundamentally disagree.
Oh, really?
Because what happened with the black merchants versus the Chinese, the Jordanians, the Indians, the Pakistanians that are here, is that they create a system, a very rigid system, that they make it beneficial to them. And that money doesn't stay in Jamaica. That money goes right back to China. They don't even pay taxes.
I don't even know who owns the wholesale I go to.
Really?
It has never been on my list to check. All I know is, if I'm going to do business in this country, most likely I'm going to do it with a non-Jamaican, since the merchant class is not black and it's hardly local.
So, that's another discussion we should have. So, all of the wealth that is amassed never stays in Jamaica. So it goes to the Chinese, it goes to the Pakistanis, it goes to the Indians. And we, Jamaica, is left undeveloped, underdeveloped, and suffering. That discussion today, we're going to scope in some more Jamaica. We're going to see whether or not these predatory loans are happening. We're going to see whether or not China is exploiting us or they're aiding us. As Roger says, God bless China. We're going to see if it is either doom, gloom, or curse. Stay tuned. So Jamaica, Roger says, God bless America, God bless China, God bless Britain. But he has forgotten that all the development that has happened in Jamaica has led to our serious dependence on these imperialist states. So I'm going to look on a few clips today for us to look how predatory these imperialist states have been to our nation called Jamaica Land We Love. So listen to this clip of what happened to the garment industry. You remember the free zones? You remember what they did to the free zones? You remembered? But if you forgot, or if you forget, let us look back.
You employ 4 workers. How much a week do you pay the workers? How much do you gain per day out of the workers? So all what you gain been going away and nothing been staying in the country. So the country been getting poorer and poorer. And the people be getting more frustrated, more than more.
Like in the free zone, where we term the slave zones, you find
The average worker is working far less than what that company would have paid a worker in America.
The free zone is an era. I would consider it to be like a state, not a country.
With that said, we're told the free zone industry is a state within a state. Many workers were exploited. Many people who were in the free, even my grandma was in the free zone industry. And she told me of some stories where Jamaicans were exploited. And those who were Americans or other foreign nationals were never paid the same kind of compensation. But people similar to Roger is of the view that God bless America for introducing the garment industry. But look at the garment industry in Jamaica now. Where is it, Roger? After those years of exploitation.
Andre, I am not going to be one to say that imperialism is not without its faults.
So you change your storyline now.
I have not. I am going to maintain that the good far outweighs the bad.
So this is just one of the few
One of the very few instances where, because of how international markets were working, the garment industry had to switch to Mexico, for example, or had to switch to certain parts of Latin America. It was an unfortunate situation.
So why is
but it did show...
Why couldn't Jamaica become a hybrid garment industry?
But why didn't we learn from the times when the industry was here? We depended on investors. The investors left and the industry collapsed. Why didn't Jamaica at that time?
The investors left because we as a country did not create a rigid system for them to stay. How is it that you have these industries set up, Roger, but yet still they weren't asked to pay taxes? Yet still they weren't put in systems where they were training our workers to become managers, equipping the people to become who we need to be today, and yet still you are going to say it's a system that just has a few faults. The system in itself was bagger because all it did was exploit our ordinary Jamaican people and to the detriment of the Jamaican dollar.
But Andre, the same kind of passion you talk about exploitation is the same kind of passion China could talk about exploitation when it had it in the early era of its garment industry. But China made a move away from that. Yes, it started off with exploiting labor, with the West exploiting China for labor. But China learned the industry. China learned from that and mastered it. Nowadays, China is a giant in the production and industry.
Yes, but to the detriment of human rights.
So why is it that Jamaica did not learn?
To the detriment of human rights.
Why is it that Jamaica did not
learn?
learn?
Can you agree?
Why is it that Jamaica did not learn?
No, Roger, can you agree?
From the garment industry such that it could have continued it on its own.
Yeah, but to the detriment of you, because even though they're a dominant feature in the garment industry and they continue to produce in mass quantities, have you seen the conditions that the Chinese have to work in, Roger?
If we were so concerned about the Chinese and how they work, we wouldn't have worn their clothes.
Wow. I don't wear those clothes. Because you know why? When I look at
almost everything we have is made in China.
You is made in China because you are a representation of them. But I'm not going to stay there. I am going to carry the conversation up even further. And we're going to look at how they exploited agriculture. Remember, agriculture was a major economic pillar for Jamaica. So when you look at the Caribbean Basin Initiative and what it did to small farmers in Jamaica and the Caribbean, come on, man. And then you hear, God bless America. You are going to hope them fix your business. You, Roger. But let us look at that clip and we come back.
So when the person brings on his trailer, whether he's in Kingston or up here, whether a farmer gets smart and get on the trailer line, he will fill his pocket of money. But what will happen to the other thousands of farmers? So you're fattening a few people at the expense of a whole culture that took years to build up. You destroy it with a stroke of the pen.
He holds the handle and you hold the blade. I mean, you know, if you want the money badly enough, then you have to agree to his terms. So ultimately, the IMF usually gets most of their own way.
Why did we think they should reduce trade barriers? The reason is that Jamaica is a very small country. It's not a country which could sort of thrive by producing only for itself. We believe very firmly that countries are going to grow better if they're integrated into the world economy, and that means reducing tariffs. And it needed to allow its importers, its people, access to goods from the rest of the world, rather than have them rely on this little economy.
Market vendors also complained about the large number of foreign fruits and vegetables on the market, saying all of the foreign foods were hurting their business.
The foreign Irish, the foreign carrot, the foreign ginger, everything full of the market.
But the supermarkets seem to be doing well with overseas produce, as they're being sold for less than the local produce. So you're saying that the foreign lettuce and carrots are less expensive than the local lettuce and carrot?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
When you open up the marketplace, those who are in a better position to take advantage of the market do so.
We import the spray, we import the fertilizer, we import the seed. So what we have to put in? Only sunlight and our impact. And if we use that right, we produce a better quality thing, but at a high cost.
Now we cannot farm anymore. We don't got any market for it. Because through the foreign carrots.
It's an insult to our dignity of not being able to produce and sell in your own market at home. This is a free market, and I've learned that because of the financial problem that the government is under with the World Bank and the IMF. They are the one who institute the pressure on the government as far as we learn. Now we had a thing named protective market. The government said no import. And then now we compete with one another. But for the time being, you're open to the world to compete with the world.
No protectionism. Nothing was put in place under the Caribbean Basin Initiative that saw to it that local farmers' produce was sold first. They gave them no preferential treatment. Roger, imagine, we encourage farmers to eat what we grow what we eat. But here came the foreign goods, genetically modified goods, coming in our market, exploiting the market because it's cheaper.
Yes.
And yet still, you are saying that imperialism is a good thing. Come on, man. I want a response to this one.
I would love to respond. Because, again, yes, the U.S. foreign policy more or less forced Jamaica to remove
You're speechless now.
protectionism. But it was the people's response that made all the difference in the world. Because when these goods started to flood supermarkets, so many of our own people chose that over our own local produce. Yes, one, because of its cheapness, but its packaging, its cleanness. So many things were better, and people wanted that kind of product. It wasn't that America forced us to buy it.
But it came so
right?
with a lot of non-communicable diseases on a rise.
And the people bought it.
It came so with a lot of non-communicable diseases on a rise. Because with all of these produces being in our supermarkets, it came with diabetes on a rise, hypertension on a rise. We never had a public education campaign that did justice for Jamaica.
I'm willing to concede that imperialism may have had an impact on our own agricultural industries. I don't
repeat that. Repeat that.
I'm willing to concede that imperialism may have had an impact on our own local agricultural industry. But I think
to the detriment of our agricultural industry.
I think there was a greater I think it was a greater opportunity for persons now to trade our own goods and services, to also be a part of the buying and trading of goods and services. And people had quality goods in supermarkets that they didn't have before at a cheaper rate.
You know what I would have expected the Caribbean Basin Initiative would have done?
What the Jamaican government should have done in that time now is to begin to find out what type of quality yields that we would need to compete internationally in order to do our own exquisite or unique exports.
Correct.
That's what we
For
never did.
for
We should have
instance-
responded by changing up our own agricultural tactics to start doing kind of exotic fruits and vegetables and those things and start exporting
We
them.
never needed to create exotic foods. Our foods are some of the best in the world. Our plant, our soil is some of the best in the world. What we should have been doing is investing a lot more in using technology at the time to increase our yields.
But Andre, realistically, and if you look at enough documentation, it will tell you that we don't have the capacity to produce, to feed the 2.7 million people we have. Invariably, we're going to have to look outside to service our needs.
So you believe that we don't have it?
I think we don't. We don't have the kind of energy it will take to do production.
But
And even if we do that production, it's going to be incredibly
I
expensive.
I want to hit back on that point.
It was the United States intervention that allowed us the luxuries that we now walk into supermarkets and take for granted now. We can't even imagine supermarkets now without some of the things
But
that
we
are in
still have
them.
so many wasted lands that are untapped and unused. But yet still, we're unable to produce. So if it is that the lands are not being tapped on, what you're going to expect? How we're going to produce?
I don't have all the answers.
You don't have all the answers today because you're an imperialist agenda. I will ask Jamaica to fix your business. We're going to continue. Now we're going to look at Chinatown, made in China, Mr. Bent, and many others who believe that China is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Look at what China did in Africa. Look at this clip.
Political alliances manifest themselves here, on the voting floor of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, New York. In this room, countries impose legislation that carries weight worldwide, and so what happens in this room is the physical materialization of the world's politics. 47 years ago, exactly that happened when one of the General Assembly's most consequential votes occurred. China, you see, essentially has two governments. There's the Republic of China, which used to control the mainland and Taiwan, but today only administers Taiwan, and there's the People's Republic of China, which controls the mainland. Both claim to be the rightful governments of all of the Chinese territory, both Taiwan and the mainland, and so back in 1971, the United Nations had to decide which government would represent China. Essentially, the question was which government was the rightful leader of the territory, as there could only be one in the United Nations. The US was the main superpower opposing the People's Republic representing China, as it had a strong political and military alliance with the Republic of China government, and so the vote was essentially the US's sphere of influence versus the world. Among the 35 countries that voted against the People's Republic were much of Africa, the Central African Republic, Chad, Gabon, Liberia, Niger, South Africa, and plenty of others that sided with the US. Despite the US's effort, the resolution ended up passing, and the representative government for China in the UN was switched to the People's Republic of China. But what's interesting about this vote is not the result, it's who voted against the People's Republic. Since that 1971 vote, you see, something has changed. In 2007, the UN General Assembly met once again to vote on whether to adopt a resolution condemning the human rights situation in North Korea. As one of North Korea's strongest allies, this vote was China and its sphere of influence versus the world. In this vote, though, only Burundi, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Ghana, Kenya, Lesotho, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mauritania, and Tanzania voted against China. All the 43 other African countries either abstained or voted no along with China, because in the 40 years between these votes, political ties changed. Africa no longer bows to the US. Much of the continent is now economically and politically aligned with the world's fastest emerging superpower, China. The simple answer for why this is because China has pumped huge amounts of money into the continent of Africa. They're buying allies.
Now, my people, having heard that clip, it appears the value system for an entire continent has shifted to a point where they no longer regard the basic human rights, that they have given up the human rights for the gain of money from China. But in shifting their value system, they might not be aware, but China's predatory agenda will be fulfilled. Look at Zambia. Zambia wasn't able to pay their loans back to China, and China was able to take the ports of Zambia. They're strategically going across continents and nations and taking away from the people the national assets. But in Jamaica land we love, they are after the wharf. They have taken the wharf. They now own the wharf. What is next? We heard their intention is to take the railroads and to take our transport system. What is next? We heard that they want the mining license to take over from the maroon towns. Those kind of national assets we must question when China takes over, Roger. Those national assets. What will be your call? That it was good and great, and God bless China, and God should know bless. What about Jamaica?
My view is other countries would have come before. Britain would have come, the US would have come, some would have colonized, others would have taken over our key assets, and Jamaica survived. It's a part of competitive environment that we live in. And I believe that China, if and when it comes and it takes the necessary resources, it is going to make us far more competitive on the international scene.
That argument is woefully lacking. You know why? It's time for Jamaica to benefit for Jamaicans. It's time we no longer become exploited. It's time for Jamaica to gain, where Jamaicans can have housing, that is for them, where Jamaicans can have assets, that is for them. And look, no, even our basic beaches, and that's a discussion we need to have. If we can't own our basic beaches, and so many of these merchant class owns it, to the exploitation of Jamaicans, it's a serious deficit to the people.
Andre, when our politicians have taken our monies and we're okay with it, where you think we're going to get more money? We have to go to China. We have to go to other countries. We don't have a problem in this country with politicians taking money, one, or two, misspending money. We don't mind, right? We give them authority, whether implicit or explicit, we give them authority to use and misuse our funds. When they mash up the money, when we are broke and destitute, we have to go to someone.
So you're saying
we go to China now.
So the new colonizers, you have no problem in them coming here. You have no problem of them taking over this country.
We have no choice. We have no choice,
Of
Andre.
course we have a choice.
We are poor. We have no money. And the
We
little
can't
money.
say we're poor.
And the little money we have,
can't
politicians have
Roger,
taken
we
it.
can't say when we're poor in recent times. We see on the roads coming off the streets $3.8 million US. One Jamaican have. You can't say Jamaica is poor. It's just that there's a serious issue with the distribution of wealth in this country. When we fix the issue of distribution of wealth, when it trickles down to the poorer classes, we will have a better Jamaica. That's discussion we must have. It's not a matter of poverty in this land. It's a matter of the money, the wealth not trickling down to the lower classes and the lower echelon of society, that it can benefit me and you, and we can have house and car and land and assets, just a few.
But also, they will open the avenue for travel. We'll have more persons going into Chinese territories. You know, Jamaicans love to travel, and Jamaicans love to go and send back money. That is also a factor. We have gone to the US, we have gone to Britain. We will now go to China and send back money. It will also help the Jamaicans.
Send back. But I'm going to ask you this. How coincidental that the Chinese don't really pay taxes in our country, and they don't really add to the GDP of this country, because the monies that they have worked, it's not trackable. Have you realized that?
No, no.
For instance, many a times it is said that the Chinese have a simple way. When you go to their wholesales, every end of month, the card machines never work. The card machines never work. It's pure cash. How coincidental that is. And all of those monies...
We know that the machines are temperamental. It has always been the case.
So every month you go to the machine. Every month. You have 12 months of the year. And every 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 28.
Because during that period when people get paid, you have more traffic with the machines. They're more likely to break down, Andre.
So they collect the raw cash from what I see. And it is not bankable, you know. Them go hide it in them little places and them trances. And it don't stay here. It goes right back to their the different areas in China. You really want them to have more control of Jamaica? I think it will be to the doom, gloom of this country. Zambia, Sri Lanka, and all of those countries are prime examples of how predatory loans have worked to the interest of China and to the detriment of those nation states. Jamaica, look out, look into the future and tell us, do you think China agenda is for the greater advancement of themselves? Remember, there's Goat Islands that they need for militaristic and logistics prowess. Remember, they have or they want that of the cockpit country. And if they get the railroads, basically they control Jamaica. What is it that me and you will have after they have invested? Stay tuned. I don't know about you, but we have been exploited far too long. It's now time for us to assess ourselves, make better decisions, and for us to see to it that Jamaica and Jamaicans benefit. I have no problem if the loans are there, you know, but don't become exploited to the detriment where China owns us. I don't want to see a Jamaica where it is made in Jamaica but owned by China. That discussion we're having and we have had today on Unfiltered. My name is Andre Stevens and this is Unfiltered. Walk good.